my grandma's a Christian. She goes to church and stuff, and for me, not so much. But I don't feel lost and
Sure.
in the dark. Hey, look, there might be a hell, and I might go to it. But if I enjoy my time here, then I think that at least that's one good thing. I don't feel like I need to know the answer. Just taking it as it comes. Skate until I die.
It was getting kind of dark. I was heading on the way home, but I did see a young man on a skateboarder on the park, and I started to speak to him. So we try to keep it quite brief. We were running out of light. Interesting conversation. He was very keen and open to talk, but I think I got a sense of he was pushing back every time I was trying to get kind of religious on him. And so while he was happy to share his opinions, I think I got a sense if I pushed further, he wouldn't appreciate that, and so I didn't in the end. And so when it came to sharing the gospel, I sort of stopped short of that. And as he was saying, look, he doesn't appreciate those people who try to push the religion on them. And so I do pray. He seems quite young, and he seems like he's settled in his understanding. I just try to say to him, basically, look, so much life in front of you, you're going to have to deal with some of these questions sooner than later, and there's so much you can gain from settling on them earlier than later. So kind of left it at that with him. Hope to maybe run into him again in the future. We can kind of carry on the conversation. I can get to share more of the gospel with him and some of my own testimony. Until then, yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. See you in the next video. God bless. Do you have any faith, any belief, any religion?
No, not really. Not like the kind of normal religious groups, I suppose. I suppose like the faith that I have is kind of just like linked with karma. Just do good things and good things will come to you. I think that's just
Understood. And has that ever changed in your life? Like, have you grown up in different surroundings, environment, and then?
No, not really. I think just from obviously you kind of learn as you get older. But I like to. I don't think it always plans out like that, but I like to think that that's the case.
Got it. And have you ever given thought to? Is there like a God, or what would it take for you to sort of be convinced of that? For example, like what would convince you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it really. If there is, if it isn't, it doesn't matter much to me.
Okay.
Just live your life, and if that's what makes you happy, and if that's what makes you crack on with it, then cool. But if not, then whatever.
And it's fine, I think, as a personal opinion. Obviously, everyone is free to believe however they kind of settled on that question. But if I rephrase that a little bit, right? So if there is a thing like a heaven or a hell, right? Then like some religions like Christianity and others, like they believe that there's some sort of a judgment at the end. There's a heaven and a hell, and we'll go one place or the other place, right? And so that seems like a lot is at stake. A lot is at stake with that belief. Now, for you, obviously, to you, it doesn't seem like it matters much, but that's because I can only imagine that's because you don't necessarily believe that there is such a
afterlife
or such a destiny for our souls. Is that fair? Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. So by extension, that would mean that you don't necessarily believe that there is a God who would judge at the end of the age.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that.
Okay. And is there to put it that initial question of mine in a different way, like is there, because I asked you what would make you believe otherwise, but like what is it that makes you believe that there isn't, or if anything, like is there something that convinces you, look, you've thought about it just long enough to sort of really be settled on that question?
I think I probably haven't actually thought about it that much, I haven't put too much thought in what's going to happen after, because I don't know, I feel like this is the life, enjoy it,
Okay.
You know, have a good time. Don't stress about what's going on after. Hey, look, there might be a hell, and I might go to it. But you know, if I enjoy my time here, then I think that at least that's one good thing. You know.
Got it. Fair. This creation, right? You look at it. You enjoyed it probably. I mean, I know it looks like you're a skateboarder. You probably enjoyed yourself over there at the park. Beautiful day today, right? We enjoy what we have, the nature of, like, what do you think it all sort of just happened? Do you think there is, going back to the idea of, like, how did it all come about? And is there potentially someone behind it all?
I don't know, man. Again, something that I haven't put much thought into, but I think it would be pretty wild. Like, I know that, you know, that the kind of creation story, what kind of is a bit wild about that to me is that, you know, there's evolution is a thing, right? We know that.
Go ahead. Go continue.
Okay. Yeah. So to say that like, you know, us, or like you know, that we are kind of been put onto this planet Earth, like it was kind of created for us. I think that's a bit kind of far out. I think, you know, we've just kind of evolved, and, you know, we are now we are the dominant species on planet Earth, and that's just kind of how it's played out. To say that it was, you know, all built around for us, I think that's a bit far out.
And yet there seems to be a sense in which we are special, right? And I think you pause on the word evolution, so it's not that I disagree with evolution. I think it's limited in its explanatory power. So, for example, evolution assumes that there's life, and it speaks of how that life kind of changes over time, right?
Okay.
You have the obvious example that Darwin took is, you know, birds with different beaks and different feather colors, right? Because different environment causes them to evolve in that nature. But even Darwin, he was sort of questioning whether the evolution can be taken. You know, he talked about species and sort of evolving into other species, but he did stop short of from non-life to life, right? So there was no sort of explanation of how do we go from, you know, atoms and stones and dust and dirt into the first cell and the first organism, right? So, and frankly, science does not have yet an answer for that question. They're still looking into the things. So that's about the beginning of life. But also, we as human beings, we seem to be endowed with special things that we don't see anywhere else. We see the ability to plan in advance, the ability to sort of the way we sort of have emotions and creativity, right? Yeah. Those are the things, you know, not necessarily even intelligence. Like, we see some intelligence in some animals, you know, apes and even dolphins, but
an emotion, I would say.
An emotion to some extent, just there's some of that, but I think this idea of planning forward, creativity and kind of combined efforts and things like reflecting back on things, seems to be quite special of us, right?
It's special, and I think if you take the kind of evolution blueprint, it's why we are like this, like, dominant force, right? If you take it all the way back to kind of like early Homo sapien, we could work together. We had this amazing brain that, like, you know, we could plan out things, where we have this imagination where you know, other species, I suppose, are kind of just acting on responses to their environment. And so I mean, could that be just part of, you know, evolution itself? Is, you know, the people who had this kind of developed mind, they succeeded, they repopulated, and here we are today, the human race.
It's an amazing miracle. I mean, I would admit, and I would say even then, like, I think evolution is still trying to understand that. Like, again, it would have to start with some sort of an explanation of how do you get from a limited mind to a developed mind, and what are those differences? Anyway, I mean, it's getting maybe too deep for this sort of conversation, but I think you know I guess the point I'm trying to make. There's something unique about us that we're still trying to understand. We're still trying to apply. I'm not saying we're never going to understand it, but I think there is even science. The more they look into how life evolved, the complexity of a cell, the complexity of a human mind, the location of consciousness. I mean, that's a mystery
Yeah,
still.
sure. Yeah.
What happens when we sleep, and where did these ideas sort of come from? I mean, that is very, very special. And I think, people sort of wonder and ponder about that, and sort of say, look, there's something even maybe spiritual about this. Would you say that there's spiritual aspects of human beings? Do you?
I don't know. I suppose I haven't thought about it too much. Yeah, I suppose we're just kind of different, and if you want to call that difference a spirit, then
Right.
yeah, cool.
Here's another area where sort of spirituality comes in, right? And that is the idea of good and bad, right? Morality, right? Do you feel like there is a sense of moral good and moral bad?
Yeah, everyone has their own moral compass, I suppose.
Okay, so you qualify, but their own. Do you think that there are absolutes?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so, but that's kind of, everyone kind of sees it in their own way. Like to completely be like, this is good and this is bad. I think there's probably a vast amount of people who believe the same things are good and the same things are bad.
Yeah.
But to have like a absolute, I mean, I've got some absolutes for sure.
Yeah.
But I know that the next person who walks past might not share those same beliefs. So
That's fair. But do you think that there should be maybe some absolutes, right? Do you feel like
maybe?
Yeah?
I think maybe. Like don't go around killing people and stuff. That's an absolute no. But yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not really sure what else to say about that. Really.
Right.
I don't know if. Are you saying in the way that, like, if we go back to kind of that afterlife kind of thing, that if there is an absolute good and an absolute bad, then you would get judged on that?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of going that, like, the idea because the existence of an absolute kind of almost points to that lawgiver, right, of sorts, right? Because you would have to ask, where do those absolutes come from? Why do we feel them? Who established them, right? Because they feel pretty strong to us, and then if they do exist, then we would say, okay, well, who is behind it all, and if he will be using that.
I mean, I feel like, as we're kind of a creature who like thrives on working as a team and being that kind of like having that community. I think that's probably where we get these kind of like things that we should do, things that we shouldn't do, right? Because we're kind of looking out for each other. So maybe these absolutes actually come from, trying to working in that team, having that kind of like community kind of mindset. Maybe that's where we think, to look out for each other.
And that can be good, right? In some settings, I think there is something to be said about that. And even communities, when they form, let's say societies or groups, they have bylaws by which they agree to commonly sort of operate. But I think there's also a sense in which once societies at large find themselves in a way where sort of morality is democratically sort of determined, we see historically that leads to potentially huge issues. Like the obvious one, Nazi Germany, right? For some reason or another, well, that's something like there's probably very, very good reasons, right? But as a society, with their leadership, right, they've decided certain things, right? Such as that certain people groups are less worth than other people groups, right? And we shall exterminate them, or we should treat them like second-class citizens, right?
Yeah.
But it worked in general for their country, right? Now, 40, 50 years later, we look back at that, or more, 70 years later, we look back at it and say, look, that was wrong. That was wrong. On which basis can we tell them that was wrong? Because now we feel strongly that was wrong. It was strongly wrong to exterminate Jews, to put them in concentration camps, in gas chambers, and other things. And since then, we have things like human rights.
Yeah.
We have the idea of a genocide that we sort of want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But for certain people at the time in the past, that was okay. Why is it not okay today, right? So, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think people, I suppose, looking back on it, then maybe people were like kind of misled, misinformed. that's why they kind of came to this idea where they thought, and probably misinformed because they weren't really given the whole, you know, picture of what the you know, this Nazi party was doing. People were kind of like followers, but looking back now, they can see the absolute atrocities that were kind of done, and I think I don't know, you know, I suppose you're kind of saying like, how can we say to them that was bad if they've kind of come to that decision? I don't know, but you know, it was horrific, and you know, they were still going through horrific like scenes of genocide and stuff, you know, even today. So I suppose people get misled. People listen to things and you know, think that they you know want to be part of that, and it's unfortunate that, you know.
I agree. I mean, maybe even today, someone later, you know, 70 years from now, we look at these guys. How the hell did they think that, I don't know, X, Y, and Z was right. Yeah. Or appropriate, no, right? Sure. And they'll look back. I guess my point is that there's a sense of fallibility, right, of imperfect understanding that we all have. And yes, we try to sort of grope in the dark, almost like, okay, what is the common thing? Mm-hmm. But that over the history, right, has shown like that itself can change and can shift with our views, our opinions, circumstances, all that kind of stuff, right? But then the idea of being like, we all seek something stable, right? We seek something stable. And to me, it goes back to the question of like understanding who really we are. And me, so I'll sort of be very sort of frank, as a Christian, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, it's the idea of a designer, of a creator, mm-hmm. is there as a look. You don't have to necessarily work hard of thinking who you are if someone has already given you the answer, right? If someone now there's a path of like, okay, how do I trust that, and how do I know that I got it right? Because there's multiple different claims even to that, which God, which religion, and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you assume that you've settled on that, then I think it gives you a foundation, right? It gives you a foundation. It answers the question: here's who I am. Here's what I'm here to do. Yeah. And that's the foundation that I can then layer on other points in life, right? So I think that's the value, I think, of religion, and I think certainly scholars over the years have recognized that value. Maybe they've not sort of said, look, it's not that we recognize this religion is right, that religion is right, but I think that's the value of religion for the society, certainly.
Yeah, I suppose if it, you know, and that definitely is really helpful for people to navigate life. You know, mm-hmm. they have. You know, and like there's a saying, any faith is good faith. Like, mm-hmm. you know, that for some people, they can, you know, it really helps them to go about life by, you know, having, you know, knowing what they were kind of put on this earth to do, and kind of cracking on with it. I think I don't necessarily feel like. I think that's cool, and I think that's wicked if you can be really comfortable with life and have that. For me, not so much, but you know, I don't feel lost and sure. you know, in the dark. I suppose I learn from experiences and you know, kind of just navigate what brings me joy myself. Yeah. And I'm just trying to crack on with life and figure out how I kind of want to live it. And you know, sometimes it's quite hard, and then you know, you learn from that, and I suppose, like, you know, if some people really struggle with that, to have someone like a God or something to kind of help guide them through that, then that's cool.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I know we're losing light. I don't want to take too much of your time, but like I already sort of said, you know, I'm a Christian coming from this from a Christian perspective. Very curious to know, like, how do you see Christianity specifically? What do you think it's about? What's your understanding of it?
I think it can be a lot for different people. It can be different things, right? I think not necessarily everybody picks up the Bible and, you know, takes the same messages away from that. I'm not necessarily saying that's, you know, a bad thing. You know, some, you know, even any book, you read a book and some people take different things from it. What do I think? Well, I think, you know, I've got, you know, my grandma's a Christian. She goes to church and stuff, and she, you know, finds solace in doing that and having that ritual, and I think that's good. but yeah, I think, like any religion, everybody, I don't think necessarily everyone kind of takes the same messages away the same, and I think sometimes that can kind of, some people might read something and kind of get a different message from it. Yeah, I think as for Christianity, I think it's as long, if it's helping you, that's cool. I'm not as keen as when people try and like push it on other people. I think that's like, just take what you want, and that goes for every single religion in the whole world. Take what you need from it, and if it helps your life, wicked.
Yeah, and that's fair. But everything you said, I think, is probably true of any other sort of philosophy or ideology. Everyone's going to take certain maybe angle to it, or certain sometimes even distortion to it. But okay, but you said it gives to your grandmother certainly a kind of certain sense of solace and stability, maybe even. I don't know if I heard it, but what is it? What's the what distinguishes it from other religions?
Nothing really. I think she could, I think she would probably find a similar. If she was, wasn't brought up in the UK, and she might follow another religion and have slightly different rituals, but I think the fact that there is a ritual, there is going and going to a community,
Right.
being there, talking to people, sharing kind of that same faith, having shared ideas. I think that's what works for her. That's what she enjoys, and it keeps her peace of mind.
Got it. Okay. No, so okay, I understand what you're saying, right? So, but I think what I'm hearing kind of from you is always you seem to be sort of putting the onus on the person, right? It's sort of like what works for that person, that's valuable in itself. But what I also hear is that like you don't necessarily think of it as a set of absolute claims or morals, right? That you can sort of look at and then compare to sort of other absolutes for their inherent veracity, if that makes any sense, right? So there's not like a playing field in which you're sort of saying, well, Christianity says this, Islam says that. Now I may not believe in either one of those, but certainly this seems to be a little bit more making sense than the other one, right? You're sort of just, you're not looking at it from that perspective.
No, not really. And that's maybe just lack of looking into it,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they're all kind of things that bring communities together, which is a nice thing.
But take it. I mean, there were historical, like Jesus Christ, right? Do you believe he was a historical person?
He might have been. Yeah, he might have been a guy. Yeah, I mean, whether miracles and that, I don't really feel the need to prove or disprove anything. I don't really feel the need to look in. I don't feel like I need to know the answer.
Right. Right.
I think I'm living for the kind of here and now, and I'm okay. So I feel like for myself, I don't feel like I need the answer to whether is it a creation story, is it the Big Bang, just taking it as it comes.
Fair, that's fair. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I would just encourage you. I know there's how do I put it? Maybe that's the place where you are right now. I would say from my own experience, things will maybe change. And sometimes the life can get around us, inside us, over us, and hits us over the head. And there may be times at which maybe in the future you will. Maybe now is the time. Maybe now is the time to look at some of these greater things in life. I'm just putting it out there. That was the case for me. But I would just sort of say, look, it's worth it. It's worth looking. I think these investments can be very valuable. They can be also not just valuable intellectually or just, okay, now I got something that I didn't know before. But I would also say there's a certain fulfillment there, a certain sense of joy and peace. Looking into spiritual things, especially if it leads you to kind of a closeness of the transcendental, of the things beyond of the God, right?
Yeah.
So,
okay.
and
I mean, I have my own kind of solaces, like this right here is how, if things are getting hectic and the brain's getting fuzzy, that's something that I can focus on, and I feel I feel great after doing it, and that's it. It clears my head. So finding those tools that work for you. It may be religion, it may be meditation, it may be all these other things. I think it's great to look into. I think I've got a couple of tools that I use, and
that's great. This is exactly what I'm saying. You maybe one day you'll be old, that this is not gonna just your bones are not gonna work.
Hey, skate until I die.
Well, hopefully, right. Anyway, no, I get what you're saying. So no, thank you again for your honest thoughts and for your time, most of all, and really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.